Well, welcome everybody for another episode of Forever Bristol City podcast. We were a bit disappointed after the midweek setback against Sheffield United, but City came back with a bang, literally, because the final score at Carrow Road, it finished Norwich City 0, our City 2. Cracking game, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Neil Sutton, Mark Tubby and Ian Gay, good little trio who are going to go through the match action. And as we normally do, chaps, I'll start with you first, Ian. 30 seconds, if you can make that, on how you felt on the final whistle, which was about 5-5, I think. It was quite a bit of injury time in that game.
Yeah, I think, well, 3 points, 2 goals, clean sheet. I mean, that would be enough on its own, but there's more. Norwich's first defeat in 21 home games and for over a year. City's first win at Carrow Road in 15 years. And it doesn't stop there. I mean, if you said to me in the summer, before a ball was kicked, how would you like to be 10th, 2 points off the playoffs with a third of the season gone, after a run of games that included Borough and Norwich away, with Sheffield United in Leeds at home, having beaten the teams in 6th and 7th place, I'd have bitten your arm off up to the neck. So, in strict answer to your question, I feel a bit delirious at the end of that, to be honest.
Okay. Mark, how did you feel?
After Tuesday's sickener, I was shocked in such a positive way about the most disciplined City performance I've seen for years. Kept the Championship's top scorer quiet, apart from the first 10 minutes, with George Murphy at right wing back playing excellently. Some of Anis Mehmeti's play was fantastic, and the movement in the middle. But it's the ability of the team to press high and force a quality team into lots of mistakes, create chances, and when we do turn the ball over, to take them clinically. An outstanding away performance, ended Norwich's run, like Ian said, and we're going into the international break full of confidence, and we'll get players back. And City, this is real progress. We've got to build on that now. City have set very high standards in their away form the last few weeks, taking 10 points from the last 12. It should have been 12 really. Fantastic. So lots to look forward to for the rest of the season.
Excellent. And Neil, what were your thoughts?
It was a very unexpected result.
Didn't see that coming.
It was one of those did not see that coming after Tuesday night. Obviously, putting in context now, the 2 points dropped on Tuesday night, where we would have been 5th, I believe, or something like that, in relation to it. First time in the playoffs for a long time, actually.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I think it's a strange. We've sort of come together as a team, haven't we? Despite the injuries, and they have been crippling as a squad as a whole. We seem to be playing with a sort of a belief and an energy. And Marcus McGuane, really interesting. You know, this guy that's been on the fringe, that was seen. He's now had his time in there, and there's a player there, isn't there?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, Joe Williams, when he's fit.
It's a difference.
He's going to struggle to get back in.
He is.
Let's get into the lineup, Ian, because we were, injuries and suspension. When you saw the 11 that took the field, don't look anything weak about that at all, really, in my book. And if you look at the bench, good to see young Billy Phillips get on there. I think that's his first inclusion in a matchday squad. I'll stand corrected on that, but it was okay. But what were your thoughts on the actual selection that took the field at 3 o'clock?
I was delighted because I'd hoped, and I've been saying probably since the start of the season, I prefer us when we go 3 at the back. I think we look better balanced. I think Roberts and Pring being fit. I thought actually Roberts was going to play left centre back and Pring was going to play left back, but they didn't. But they can alternate like that, and they did. Both excellent defenders and good going forward when they have to be. I mean, Pring put in one of the best match-saving tackles in the 6-yard box you'll ever see towards the end of the. Well, it wasn't a match-saving; it was certainly a goal-saving tackle. Yeah. So I think the lineup for me was exactly what I wanted. I mean, the reason McGuane wasn't included earlier was because we had to get him up to speed and match fit because he'd hardly played under Des Buckingham, who he fell out with at Oxford. And I think Marcus is one of those players who needs to feel valued and needs to feel loved. and I think he gets that from Liam Manning and Chris Hogg. So he is a very competent holding midfield player. Positionally, he's good. He's quicker than most people realise.
Yeah.
And he's combative, and he's what we need. And I wouldn't mind seeing him and Joe in the team if we require a double pivot and we want to be a little bit more defensive. But yeah, I was absolutely delighted with the lineup. Obviously, a little bit of trepidation is how well George was going to do it right wing back. Don't get me wrong, I think he's an excellent footballer, but I think he's played there all of about 90 minutes if you threw it all together, perhaps 100 and odd.
Yeah.
In other words, the last 2 games. But it just goes to show if you're a good footballer, you be adaptable. And at least he was on the right side of the field for him. And I think Manning's slight tactical switch at the start of the second half was really put the threat of Sainz to bed, because he had Roberts as I'll call a proper defender, and Earthy tucking in as well. So we were double banking on him, which after the first half was very sensible.
Yeah. Mark, 2 players, milestones from their career perspective. Zach, his 200th game for City, Zach Viner, and Naki Wells. Obviously, we'll talk about his goal later, but they're both proving to be key members of this good run. I mean, 3 defeats in the opening quarter of the season, is good form. But those 2 are a big part of it.
Yeah, I think for Zach Viner, 200 appearances after he was loaned out to Aberdeen and Rotherham earlier in his career. He's found his position. On the right side of a central defence. He's made that his own. And he was great yesterday, because when we restricted Norwich to long balls, he was just immense. It coming in behind the forwards and forcing the ball back up the pitch. They really, apart from the first 10 minutes, didn't get behind us at all, and that was testament, to Zach Viner's play and Luke McNally, covering the gaps with Borja, Cernak on the Borja and Borja. Is it Borja or Borja on the left? Pardon?
Borja Sainz.
Borja stupid. So
Borja Sainz. Yeah, either way.
Borja Sainz. It just kept him quiet. I thought it was excellent. But I mean, I think it's like I said, in his City career, he's played right back and found it difficult there, but he's really made that right centre back position his own, and he's won the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah,
fantastic.
As Ian alluded to, there could have been a temptation to, because he's played a lot of games there. I'd say not half maybe, but a third of his games he's played right back in a back 4, because they could have lined up with, as Ian said, with a 4 with Viner, McNally, Roberts praying in a 4.
Can I just mention Naki as well? I mean, Naki's ability to drop off and find space. I mean, when he got taken off, you saw, Fally Miulu come inside too much and moves break down. He runs himself into the ground every game, and the way he takes his chances, he can be quite clinical. So he could be, he could go under the radar this season. He scored 5 goals already, but we're really relying on him because he's the best striker at the club.
Well, he's out of contract.
He wasn't meant to be at the start of the season.
Summer.
He was going to be an impact sub, but he's made that position his own as well. And I think it's wonderful. 34 years old, no barrier to quality, is it really? You can't, And
is he out of contract in the summer?
I think so, yeah. I think
so he'll be 35 in the summer. So, I mean, look, he's on course. He could get double-figure goals, which at this stage of his career, it's not quite Andy Vyman's standard, 20 plus, having a buoyant season, but it'd be good for Naki to finish with between 10 and 15 this season, which he's on course to do. Neil, George Earthy at wing back, Alex Scott played a lot of his games in that position for City under Pearson, and if you're a good footballer, you can sort of do it. And maybe George Tanner's out for a long while. Do you think Earthy can make that position his own over I'll say that's the next, between Christmas and between now and New Year?
Well, I think Dickie's just a one-match ban, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Dickie comes back into the equation as well in relation to it. And then we've got, I mean, we've been fortunate in a way yesterday, in a way in which we were able to put, Pring. Nobody expected to see Pring come back on Tuesday, did they?
And I thought he put in a good.
And
I thought he was excellent yesterday because he can be puffing and puffing
with a horrendous, injury, and yet he's back. And then Roberts coming back at just the right time. McInally missing on Tuesday with concussion, but back yesterday having a good game. I mean, it's given us options in everywhere, but the right wing back position, which is because I always think if the players are actually performing for you, you don't change your winning side. So I can see, international break, but I don't think any.
I think
McCrory, Sykes, Tanner, they're not coming back.
No.
So then we've got an issue at sort of right.
Well, Naismith was out yesterday. Was that a concussion?
No, Naismith.
Just a quick point on that. Sykes will be back, and McCrory could well be back after the international break. And I think, can I make a general point? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I think our players are getting better mentally. And I'm touching wood all the time I'm saying this, at managing hamstrings. As soon as they feel something, they go down. They don't think, well, I'll play another 10 minutes and see how it goes and tear it. And I think that may have happened, and I'm praying it has, with Sykes and McCrory. And Naismith is another hamstring injury as well.
Hey, Neil, carry on.
Yeah, the right wing back, it's a struggle. It's a struggle there.
But really, I think we've all said Earthy needs to get minutes, but in the short term, he could play in that role.
He can play, and the fact is, if you've got him on the pitch, if you need him further up the pitch, just saying something happens to one of your forward guys, and you can rotate him into there. So just having him in the squad and having him on the pitch, I think, is a benefit to us.
And if you look at the bench, I mean, it's not, Armstrong, Atkinson, Bajic, Kabaslowy, Hirakawa, Cornick, Morrison, Mayulu, Billy Phillips. Yeah, I mean, there was a call for Joe Jones to get into the matchday squad because he was the only conventional. Joe James, sorry.
Yeah.
The only conventional player in that weak position. But a reward for Billy Phillips getting on there, the sort of 18-year-old who looks about 25.
With the beard. He had a beard at 12, didn't he? I think.
Yeah. There was always a kid like that at school. Yeah. Did you find that?
There was always a kid like that. I think with it, it's strange how to bring in sort of Atkinson back very, very gently in a way, isn't it? I think, not getting whatever like that realistically. When Naismith came off and then, the other day, and they're bringing him back gently. And Armstrong yesterday, it's a confidence thing with Armstrong at the moment, isn't it? I mean, he obviously didn't feel confident to bring him on yesterday.
No, but I think Fally, maybe it's an indication of Fally, look, I'll give you a chance, and although it was a cameo appearance, I thought he did okay.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I know you had a little dig at him, Mark. I think.
I just think he just showed it a little bit of naivety. Finding he should have gone wider and given it might have been Knight or Bird a better option to pass to when we could have had another shot near the end. And somebody like Wells does that regularly. His ability to find space in the area. That's the quality of the player.
I don't think that was entirely down to Fally, Mark. I mean, in the end, Max Bird blasted the ball at him. He was in a good position at one time, but I think by that time, Max was blowing out of where, and he just completely mishit the pass in the end. But I think I thought Fally did quite well when he came on yesterday, and he held the ball up quite well and had some nice touches. So I suppose it's in the eye of the beholder, really.
Yeah, I thought in the middle of the pitch, he did link the play up well, and we need to see more of him in because he hadn't played for the last few weeks.
Well, we need to hold on to the ball more in the final third, particularly at home.
Which
we had 30-odd% possession yesterday, and all right, we ran out 2-0 winners, and they were attacking us or trying to, and they couldn't get out. So I was very. But if I had to say, well, what else could we do with? We could do with holding the ball up more, so we could sustain attacks rather than just, if you will, play on the break.
Have it bounce back. All right, let's look at the couple of early incidents in the game for each of you to look at. I mean, on 5 minutes, Ian, Doyle put a ball in. Marcondes Header hit the post. You don't want to go 1-0 down at Carrow Road. And did we get lucky there? Should he have done better?
No, I thought he did quite well to get onto that one. He was quite tightly marked and got a little nudge as well, which may have helped. I don't know if Max got a touch on that before it went on the post, but good covering header, if you will, in an awkward position for Cam Pring, because I've seen those go in the back of the net before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good defending from Cam, who I think excelled at left centre back.
Yeah. And then a couple of minutes after that, weak penalty appeals by us. Foul on Mehmeti inside the box. What did you think of that?
No penalty.
No pain. Mark,
I think he just went. I think he just went down a bit easy, and if he'd have put a bit more oomph in it, I think he could have got on the ball and scored.
Yeah. Mark, your comment on those two? I mean, lucky let off, and no pen for the foul.
Yeah, great ball by Doyle, and I think that showed his ability. I think he's got the most assists in the Championship this season. Great forward ball, and Marcondes, who was a free transfer from Brentford, sneaked in and headed it into the post, and it came back and hit Cam Pring, went out for a corner. The Mehmeti one, that was a result of some great pressing, and there was some our fantastic all-in pressing, especially in the first half. Created that chance. Mehmeti went into the area and he really threw himself over. There wasn't really any contact from the defender, and it a little bit embarrassing, but there you go.
City have got those opening stages of the game. You feel even if they had scored Norwich with that header, I think Ian said about the mental toughness in terms of knowing not to push their bodies when they get an Achilles. But there's just a general, everybody seems to be playing for everybody at the moment. They're all supporting each other. There's movement off the ball.
We've been a streaky team for a number of years, haven't we?
Streaky league.
Streaky league. When we get that momentum as a club, then we go through it. We just it's those games like the Sheffield United game the other day that sort of like really sort of define us as a club, aren't they? We're so close. We're so sort of nearly, but we're always not. We've been 10 seasons in a Championship and we've not once been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But then in the same way, we've never really been in relegation. This eternal thing of 13th, 14th. And we get on these runs, but we don't actually. I mean, ultimately, 15 games into the season.
Yes, sir, right.
We've only got 5 wins.
Yeah.
And how many of those draws or how many of those close sort of results?
Well, I would say 3 of the draws we should have won. We've had 2 bad.
So that's another 6
We've
points.
had 1.5 bad games, which is Blackburn in the second half of Derby, right? But then that's it. That's the 2 of the 3.
We haven't won games back to back either. So
yeah,
no. So I mean, but the thing is,
the Cardiff and Sheffield Wednesday home games
weren't great,
and that is quintessential
Bristol.
Coventry
at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coventry at home.
Well, just add another 3 points onto what we've got.
Yeah.
And we'd be
more
buoyant. I don't think we need to fear anybody in this division. We've played, as Ian said, Sheffield, Leeds, Norwich, Borough, who demolished Luton 5-0, 5-1 yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need to fear anybody, and I don't think I've ever said that.
I think the thing with from my view, the Manning team, when a team allows us to play a Manning way, and we play better as a club when we have less possession, that's a given, isn't it? At the end of the day, and we play better on the counter attack than a ball run. We're not
a Pep type star.
We're not. So the games where the team set up against us, they defend deep, don't allow us to space in. They have the 2 big guys in the middle that just hassle. This is why Marcus is, I think, been really important for us the last few games. McGuane assist. But when they set up against a certain way to not take the game to us, that's when we struggle to break down the team. So Cardiff and the Sheffield Wednesday home games being a good case in point. When we are at our best is when we have teams that are going against us.
Football teams?
Well, was Stoke a football team?
No, not really. No, I suppose not.
But it's kind of like when they're going for us, and that allows us to play the game that we actually want.
And good to see Andy Vyman stick a brace on Cardiff yesterday. Ian, the first goal, I mean, we'll talk about both goals today, obviously, but separately. But the first goal, we talked about the goal against Preston, the third, as being well crafted. But the first goal we scored yesterday was cracking, wasn't it? Really, just the build-up. I won't repeat it because you'll say I told it as it is. But about 5 players involved again.
Yeah, there was. It was a real front-to-back move that finished with Mehmeti's shot. He did the right thing, cutting in, and he used his left foot at the appropriate time. One of these, it seems to happen a lot where the ball goes through the defender's legs, and that always seems to give the keepers a problem. And an assist for Hayden Roberts, who was pushed up forward on that left-hand side. And if you look at the amount of work, it was earthy. Then Bird got strong, turned, played a lovely ball out.
That was Tinian-esque. That was Tinian-esque.
Yeah, Tinian-esque, but from a different side of the field than Brian normally used to do it.
Right to left, but it was still left-footed.
It was, and Max can do that. I think the only time he starts to struggle doing that is later on in the game, because he's still getting used to playing this more advanced 10 role, which he wasn't actually signed to do. He was the guy that was signed to play next to Joe Williams and play out from there. Now, I think he's better as this 10, and I've got a strong feeling that when Scott Twine is available, and he's back after the international break as well, that because Liam Manning likes to play with 2 10s, and when we play 3 at the back, and I think we could see Bird and Twine as 2 very effective 10s in there.
Who are you leaving out, Ian? Who are you leaving out for that to happen?
At the moment, I'd still, you can't leave Mehmeti out, you can't leave Bird out, so Scott Twine is going to have to sit on the bench. It's a simple, you can, as Neil said earlier on, I mean, there's an old adage, don't change a winning team. I think it does depend who you're playing, and if you want to rotate through fatigue or anything else. Not forgetting, I think, is it only the 2 that we've got away on international duty, the 2 senior players, O'Leary and Knight. So hopefully I'm always touching wood, or fingers crossed, if you prefer, they come back fit from international duty. But I mean, Alan's just said on here, I'm not sure we need Twine. Alan, what it proved yesterday, beyond a shadow of doubt, mate, is that you need a squad. 11 blokes just doesn't do it, because that's exactly how many we had out of the first team squad yesterday. 11. So, and that was including one. That was including one suspension of Rob Dickey. But it's a squad game. We need all the squad. We will need them all season. So when people are saying, "Well, why is this guy not playing?" And the same applies to Fally and Sinks. So it is that squad game, and you get your best 11 on the field, and we did that yesterday. And the spirit running through that side at the moment is something I haven't seen that in a while.
For a long time. Mark, the opening goal, your shout. Are you going to add something there?
I was going to say, Earthy winning the ball in the right back position was ridiculous, and he kept Borges Sainz quiet. I mean, apart from the first 10 minutes, Earthy was outstanding. He wins the ball, and McNally's able to play in Bird, and the switch of play, because he's off balance in the right channel, playing the ball right across the pitch high up to Hayden Roberts, who takes it down well. And then Mehmeti's got so much to do. There's about 4 or 5 defenders behind the ball in the Norwich area. He's got Ben Slimani behind him. He takes the ball in the right by the D, and then switches it onto his left foot. And as Ian said, hits it through Shane Duffy's legs, which makes it difficult for Long, the goalkeeper, to go down. It's not the perfect hit, but it's right in the corner. And what an outstanding team goal. Like I said, George Earthy yesterday, diminutive player, right back. He was so diligent, in that back 5.
It shows what a good footballer he is.
Yeah, exactly. And, we brought him in. We thought he was going to be a transformational number 10. He was great when he came on against Stoke, really lifted the game with his work with Wales. But as he played right back the other night. I think there was, looking back, I wish he stayed on the pitch in the end. But he probably run his course. But yesterday, as part of that back five, he was outstanding because they just did not get behind us at all. They were in front of us. There were no momentum shifts really in the game apart from early on. City more or less controlled that whole game. And it was testament to players like George Murphy, who was, against the league's top goal scorer. Brilliant. Well played.
Really well. Neil, your comment on the opening goal?
Well, I just think one of the things about Mehmeti that he's guilty of is that extra 1 or 2 touches. When he doesn't do the 1 or 2 touches, he's a far more effective player, I think, in relation to it. And the goals that he's scored from sort of that sort of area, like the Leicester goal last season, where he gets it and they're not expecting it. I think that, the analysts look at these things nowadays, don't they? And they brief a team and they say, well, Mehmeti's going to take these touches and he's going to, so the team is thinking he's going to take these extra touches and all the rest of it. And this is where players in some stage, they're over-analysing the opposition, I think.
Yeah.
Because in those situations, they didn't get as tight to him, I think, as they would normally have done, because they're thinking, he's going to
go for an extra one anyway.
He's going to go on one of his mazy dribbles. And he didn't actually focus. And there was 1-2, hit it early. And he hit it early. The keeper wasn't really set.
No, but it was it was almost rolled into the...
Absolutely. Fantastic finish. But yesterday was all about Anis actually he was, to use the phrase, on point yesterday, wasn't it?
And they had the camera on him. They had the camera on him as he walked off. I think it was on Robin's TV, and taking the applause. And he said into camera, he said, "Should have had 3 today, really."
But it's just the way in which sometimes when he plays, he can be guilty of, I think, overthinking. There's a little bit still of that non-league about him from where he's come, that he gets the ball, he gets up, just another touch. Not quite sure. Just another touch. Just another touch. And then he either runs it out or he doesn't find the player.
Confidence.
When he's focused and when in that situation, bump, 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 shot, bump, 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 shot, bump, 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 shot, and then he just keep the momentum going. And obviously that a point for the second goal that we'll come to.
Can I just add to that as well, Neil? There was one point that showed the change in Anis's play, and I think it was after the first goal. He won the ball back from Ben Slimani. He tackled back on the left channel and then took the ball forward. He didn't cut across. He just went straight down the line, because he knows if you do that, you win free kicks. And we were constantly winning free kicks by doing that. I've never seen. I mean, there should have been more bookings really, because of those. A lot. There was so much fouling going on by the Norwich player, especially in the first half. But the Messi just went straight down the line, and that's a player doing his job. The manager's giving him instructions, and he's sticking to the letter of it. Doesn't put his team in trouble. If he loses the ball there, it's just going to go out for a throw. But he won the ball. Mehmeti tackling and doing that. I mean, that just shows the maturity of the player, I think. Hopefully it'll carry on,
And you talk there about lots of fouls and what have you. I have to say, for the second game in a row, we had a decent ref, because I thought Fareh Halam, I thought he refereed it well. He looked a fit, athletic bloke. He was clear. I didn't notice him sort of do any decisions that you're thinking, what the hell? Which is interesting, when people like, is it Heckingbottom, the Preston manager, was having a right go about the standard of referees.
Well, I think the thing is, our goal had come, the Irakawa goal had come after a terrible decision at Burnley, when one of their goals was chalked off for an offside that never was. Yeah. So it was just, it's just a few decisions have cost them, and that was why, I think.
Okay, Ian. After the goal, Mehmeti put it across, defender headed over, corner, scrambled clear. We're in the ascendancy, but then there was a breakaway, a Max race from his goal. He didn't have a lot to do yesterday. He got absolute pelters for what led up to Sheffield's equaliser on Tuesday night. He did all right, Max, didn't he? And when he raced from his goal, that was good that he did that. But your comments on him overall, in the wake of, he was being blamed. It was on you, Max. What a lot of fans were saying. But what did you think about him yesterday?
I don't think it was all down to him on Tuesday. Could he have done better? Yes. I mean, where he went wrong was that punch, where it just went a bit haywire for him, didn't it? Yeah. And I think he should have caught the ball, but perhaps that's just me. I thought Max did well yesterday. I still think his distribution, his long range distribution at times lets him down. This thing where he puts the diagonal into the left back playing higher, who flicks it on. Sometimes it goes straight out of play, and that just hands back possession. But considering we're up against a team that scores a lot of goals, I mean, that Sainz has got 11 on his own this season, and he's been banging them in from 30 yards, 25, anything you like. And he's one of those, well, he's like Mehmet, he's a right-footed guy that plays on the left. What he's got that Anis hasn't is consistency. And he's doing it a lot. And he's also got a bit of aggression. He put in a late tackle on Hirakawa that I was a highlight for the game for me, because shortly afterwards Zach whacked him right up in the head.
I was just going to ask you that, Ian. I said, who banged him afterwards? Yeah, because
the referee must have had a sense of humour, because he didn't book Zach for that, and he should have done. And Zach looked at him and just to say, look, you hit one of ours, we'll hit you harder. Yeah. And if the side knows that, they don't hit you in the first place. No. And our wingers need protecting. I thought the referee apparently was his first championship game yesterday.
Hopefully we might see more of it.
The last two, all right, we lost the other night just to be even-handed, and I thought the referee did well there. But that guy was really good yesterday. He kept it. I think he only booked one player, so he kept it in his pocket. I think he was a strong referee without running around the field deciding he had to scream in people's faces and book people. So I think in that game yesterday, if you'd have had Keith Stroud, there'd have probably been 7 bookings, something like that.
Probably.
So and I think the game was better for it. It wasn't a dirty game by any stretch of the imagination, but it was nice to see our side competing physically, and we've got people in there now. I mean, we could play a back three that were all 6'4", and we'd still have 6'4" guys like yesterday on the bench. So, we're coming along that way, and that physicality is very important as the season goes on, as is the squad.
Yeah, Mark, we've all had a chance to reflect on the Sheffield game, and quickly erase from our minds after what happened yesterday. As Ian rightly pointed out, Max, it wasn't so much the mistake with when the ball went over the line. It was that punch that sort of ended up going back over his head, which led to the corner that wasn't clear. But he's got to do something really, really bad for Liam to swap him out with Bajic, hasn't he? And I thought he did everything he had to yesterday. He saved from Doyle just after he'd raced from his goal to clear, and he also saved from Marcondes' free kick. He bounced back, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought he did pretty well. I mean, it's distribution. He does some of those chip passes, doesn't he, to the wing halfway inside our half. And if teams are pressing up, I think we can be caught there. He needs to play it a bit longer. Some of his throwing out's not bad. I think the main concern about Max is that we haven't got a strong number 2. We've already seen Bajic. I think he's only played once in like two or three seasons, hasn't he? 2 seasons. He played against Coventry, and previously he played against Lincoln a couple of seasons ago. So if he did get injured, and it does happen, it's the number 2, and Bajic going to be strong enough. But I mean, I watched that instant back the other night, and he had Rob Dickie in front of him, and I think he was worried about dropping it, but he shouldn't have been, because he wasn't backing into him. He could have caught the ball and just fallen backwards, but he elected to punch, and there you go. We know what happened afterwards, but we still could have cleared that corner. I mean, it was a mistake that led to the goal, but then the team's responsible in defending the corner. So everybody's got to take responsibility for that, haven't they? Not just the goalkeeper.
True. Neil, into the second half, and there was that formation change, and even Leroy Rosinho, who's a great analyst on Robin's TV, by the way. They've got a real sort of good rapport going. He talks very well, does Leroy, and he was querying it because we didn't start the second half particularly well. But saying that, all Norwich must do was a long shot from Cernak that Max saved with ease. But he sort of corrected that formation, but that wasn't until after the goal, was it?
No, and then I think this season we've not been great. That first 15 minutes of the second half, haven't we? That is one of our Achilles heels. Whether I don't know quite what it is about us, but that 15 minutes after half time, we just look vulnerable.
Yeah.
Generally.
I would say what's being said at half time because it's not.
Who knows? If we could get it. But I have seen some stats of when goals are conceded and there's a particular sort of peak, that 45 to 60. I always think there's an element of when teams are playing against us, they almost like say, particularly the home games, right, 45 minutes, just let them play. And then the analyst almost is like, right, okay, are they doing anything different? No, they're not. And it's almost like the analyst turns around, looks at the 45 minutes first play, then gives a presentation or something at half time. Right, this is how they're playing at the moment. This is what we need to do second half. Because so many teams against us. Norwich didn't yesterday in Venice, but so many teams against us, that first 15 minutes of the second half, that's when they've shifted the way they play and they've changed the way they play. And we've been slow at times to actually adapt to that.
It was interesting. I think it was somebody who was saying it might have been on the forum, the match day thread, that a lot of clubs are being found out through playing the Pep way. And we're starting to, with this high pressure we've got now, we're starting to make mistakes at the back, aren't we? And we're not doing quite so much of it ourselves.
Well, I obviously manage a lot of local teams in non-league football with the coaching matches and everything. If I try to get them to play Pep way, they haven't got the technique or the standard to play that way. And I think what happens with a lot of these coaches is they go on the coaching courses, and in some ways you've got all the coaches using the same data, using the same coaches from all the coaching sessions, and it tends to sort of nullify things out, doesn't it? I mean, there's so many times, take the Dickey goal, I know I wasn't with you on Tuesday. God, we go back a few years, that just gets rosette, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, there's none of this tippy-tappy.
And was that between
the
the equaliser and the winner, or was it before either of the goals when Dickey got sent off Tuesday?
Oh, we were 1-1 at that time.
It was 1-1.
It was the 95th minute. But it's just kind of this way. I don't know whether they've gone on coaching courses, just addressing the championship managers. I don't know whether they've gone on coaching courses where they say, right, okay, this is the way we need to play.
Yeah.
And we're just going through a bit of an evolution at the moment, I think, in football, because there's a lot more big number 9s.
Yeah.
You noticed in the Premier League, the way they're sort of playing now, it's a bit more sort of actually direct. There's a lot of crosses into the box and headers and stuff like that. So we're obviously just going through an evolution. And this tippy-tappy type way of playing, it's not working for Man City at the moment.
Absolutely. When was the last time they lost 4 in a row?
Yeah, 4 in a row. But then Sporting Lisbon actually really did them, didn't they? But I think with it, it's just like in the Championship at the moment, there's a lot of managers trying to play a nice, fancy sort of way.
It's not working.
But
you know, Tom, who works for me, he's played for Cribs seconds for 10 years. I think he's done 400 games, 250 goals. And he said this season, you know, they're changing the style, and he's just not enjoying it because he likes to run. He plays up front, obviously, with that goal scoring record. You like to.
Well, to be honest, to manning teams, when it doesn't work, and when
I know we've seen that.
It is not pleasant.
It's not good to watch. But Ian, we said a year ago we wanted fast front foot attacking football. Okay, we're only 1 point better off than we were at the same stage last season, but we're on a rise rather than not. Take us through the second and what was the point clincher goal on 62 minutes. Not a good goal, wasn't it?
It was an excellent goal. Mehmeti was working his socks off and intercepted a pass in our half, moved the ball forward, effectively used his left foot again to play in Knight, who'd made a supporting run. Knight took the ball powerfully and diagonally towards the penalty area. Naki pulled away, made a decent run with the point that Mark was alluding to earlier. Knight played the ball, got the timing just right. Naki took it in his stride, 1 touch, 2 touch in the net. Proper striker's goal. That was probably the only place in the goal that he had to aim at. And boy, he put it in, and he put it in with some pace as
He
well.
whacked it, didn't it? I mean, that sort of
Yeah.
rippling of the net that was there. 5th goal of the season on his 500th league game. He looks happy boy with that, didn't he? And at the end.
Well, once again, it's I've said before, if you could put Naki's brain and experience into Armstrong or Mayula, you'd have a 70, 80 million pound striker on your hands.
Wow.
And you would. And what you've got to look at, I mean, somebody on here suggested earlier on, well, could we give Naki an extension to his contract, and keep him on as a strikers coach? And I think if the lads on the bench, and I'm talking about the strikers, don't learn from the way he plays and what he does, and he's not perfect by a long way, but there's so much that's good about him, about his attitude, about his demeanor, and his sheer talent in sticking the ball in the net, that if you can't learn from a bloke like that, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. How many years will he have been here come January? Because he cost us 5.3 million.
5.
5, Mark, yeah?
Yeah.
Five. Well, Lee Johnson signed him, didn't he?
He came. We paid. It was part of the deal with Josh Brownhill, but not, wasn't it? They were two separate deals.
How much was he? How much did we pay for him then? What do we think we paid for him?
Naki was about 5 million.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought, Neil. I think he was. Anyway, he's proved to be a good signing over the years. Even when he wasn't featuring under Nigel, he brought Tommy Conway on in a way that Tommy was able to go and advance his career. Mark, take us through the goal as you saw it. What were your thoughts? I mean, it was.
The great thing about it is, although I can't really add much to what Ian said, but Mehmeti was off balance going back. He's between two players. It's a Norwich attack. He takes the ball. His first touch, the ball's going wide off the pitch. He keeps the ball on the pitch, runs forward, and just plays it inside to Knight. And in transition, I think that's as good as anything you'll see from Liverpool. Like there was a goal from Liverpool against Arsenal last week, a couple of weeks ago, where Knight runs inside, and the movement from Bird takes out 3 players to the left. He plays it across to Wells on the right. And like Ian said, he's actually to the right of the goal, slightly off balance. So he's only got a very narrow corridor to the in and near side to the right of the goalkeeper. And it's the sheer power that beats George Long at the near post. A fantastic team goal, back to front, similar to the first one. But again, Mehmeti winning that ball, I think, from Shane Duffy, tries to force the play from the centre-back position, play the ball up the pitch. And Mehmeti's having none of it, just sits in there, blocks, chases the ball afterwards, and then it's transition, movement, goal. Simple.
Mehmeti's enjoying the best run of form since he's been at the club, which is heading.
Well, let's not, that's the thing. Mehmeti, I mean, when he does things instinctively, great things. It's when he's got too much time. But that's true of a lot of players. We see analysis on Match of the Day. Last night they were talking about players in the Premier League that are exactly the same. When they play instinctively, when they don't have to think, their first touch, second touch is far better than if they're faced with a dilemma, if you like,
When they don't have to think, you could take that the wrong way.
Well, Mark makes a really good point, but this is what I'm going back to the analysis.
Overcomplicating.
Well, they're overcomplicating because they're almost like, what should I be doing? And it's like the pitches with the arrows on it and all the rest of it. So when people are actually going back to the old days when we didn't have these analysts telling people what they should be doing with the ball, and it was left to a lot of the players to actually their instinct. What's your instinct telling you should be doing with the ball? Whereas you find a lot of players now, they're getting into positions and they're almost like their brain is ticking through about, okay, we've gone through this in training. What should I be doing now? What should I be? And whether it's for a free of criticism, that you need a bit of bravery in that situation, don't you? You need a bit of a guy to say, right, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. Whereas you get in that position with some players and you can see them going through right, okay, so I need to go forward about 20 yards, and then I need to stop, and then I need to look back, and then I need to pass it inside. And then it becomes stilted, and it becomes.
But isn't that what was part of when there was that period? In fact, no, it was at I think it might have been at the thing where they had the podcasters there, myself and Ian were there, and the guys from Three Peaks and OSIP, where I think Liam felt that they were becoming too structured in their approach. Do you remember him saying that, Ian? I think it was that day when we were there in front of Liam, that there was a little period when we had that bad run before the good run at the end of last season. They were overthinking it. Yeah, and you got to blend that instinctiveness with.
Yeah, but Dave, modern players are different from years ago in that he also said that they need, in some cases, they need more information, and where you'll see it working is where players have a chance to take it on board, and the top coaches can get what they want to do across very quickly. Now you've seen that. The best example I could give you of that is what Arne Slot's done at Liverpool. It wasn't broke, so he didn't need to fix it, but he needed to make a change in the style, with slight change in the style with which they played. And that's exactly what he's done. Now, what we're doing, and I'll tell you, the last time we had a player who was really good at doing it was under Gary Johnson, a guy called Marvin Elliott. We're breaking play up in the other team's defensive third. So if you want, in our attacking third. So we're not letting them get out to mount attacks. And the Norwich defenders were as nervous as kittens against us yesterday, right throughout the game, because they wanted time and space on the ball, and we didn't give it to them. And we got, if you look at now, some of the times when they had the ball around their penalty area, we had 5 or 6 players in the press, and they couldn't get it into the midfield players didn't want it back to goal because they were being pressed and dispossessed. The attacking players didn't get it, didn't get the ball. Their one out ball was the long diagonal or a long ball forward for Sainz in behind Earthy, and when you play 3 at the back, that's where the space is. So when they got the ball in there, sometimes we were chasing back and they looked a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
Once we stopped that one pass that they had, remembering that although we had 11 out, they had a key player in Josh Sargent out, and he's there. He's a pivot up front for them. He's big, he's powerful, he holds the ball up. They didn't have that yesterday. All they had was Sainz as a threat. And I think that once we negated that threat, they found it very, very difficult to play through, and they couldn't hold the ball up to be able to maintain pressure. I mean, they had ball yesterday and did next to nothing with it.
Yeah. Just to go back to the goal, Neil, and what I wanted to say, what I really liked about that is I was watching it and I was like, wow, that was just, it was a really great goal. But it was the decoy run. I think Ian might have said it was Naki, but it was Bird, because he ran the opposite way to the Knight was going before Knight released it.
Yeah.
And although, as Ian rightly pointed out, Naki had it, it was a striker's finish. Yeah, it was a real whack. That run that Bird did, I thought, was instrumental in
just creating the space.
That was me.
But I think with it as well, Naki takes it a little bit earlier as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's one touch bang.
But it was.
I don't think the keeper was expecting it.
No.
And Angus Gunn is a fantastic keeper for them.
Bryn Gunn's son.
But he wasn't playing.
Exactly.
No.
I was just coming to that. Last year when we went there last year and got a draw, he was absolutely fantastic for them.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Long was in goal for them, and I don't think Long is anywhere near as good a keeper as Gunn. No. Obviously, Gunn's a Scotland keeper, but I think with it yesterday, it was like the 2 goals that we did it. We got in a position, we took early shots, and I think just the early shots before the keeper got set on both occasions actually did him to our credit.
Definitely.
Anis with not doing a touch and just one touch, bang, and he hit it with conviction. And you always think, oh God, if you were a Norwich fan, you're like, beaten at his near post. How has he got beaten at his near post? I don't think he had a chance to set himself.
No,
because I think they were still thinking that Bird decoy run that Mark spoke about across there. The keeper's looking at Bird. The keeper's looking at coming across here, isn't there? So he's like moving almost to the centre with the Bird decoy run, and then Naki took it early and beat him at his near post there. And the actual power and conviction that Naki had in that situation. But going back to Naki as well, what a professional he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago when he was playing down in the under-21s, I'll play and all the rest of it.
Well,
and then he's been a mentor.
Yeah,
and then he's been a mentor to all of these players. I mean, he's been.
Well,
we can argue about the transfer fee because I still don't think you're right with $5 million. I think it's near.
Well, you check it out.
But with it. But I mean, fantastic signing for us. I think just generally getting us through some really.
And in the same way that some people are saying we should have let Andy King or Matty James go because of their influence in the dressing room, and you can have an influence in the dressing room and be a little bit subversive because those players' loyalties were perhaps with somebody else, but with Naki, I think as Ian said, they could give him another year. He'd probably on a 2-year contract next summer from somebody, and if you're a League One club. What a player you could have. Because look, how old was Kevin Phillips when he finished? He was like 38, wasn't he? He's not quite Kevin Phillips standard.
If he went out of contract with us this summer, he would have no end of offers because
at Championship level, at 35,
possibly League One. But what you're buying with Naki Wells is you're buying a professional.
Yeah, and he took reduced terms when he signed his new contract.
Yeah, and he's the type of guy that if you were a manager, you would want at your club because he's not going to give you any problems. He's going to be ultimate professional. And he's going to work well with the young players and all the rest of it.
A bit like Aaron Wilbraham.
And as an individual as well, he's just like, he's somebody to look up to because he's done it over the years with lots of different clubs.
Yeah,
and he's taking this chance at the moment, but he's never complained.
This is the same Naki Wells that only 3 or 4 months ago, and I'll hold my hand up and saying, well, striker 1 goal in 25 games, that was a pen, but he's proved us all wrong. Ian, we have this habit now of closing out games very professionally in a way that perhaps we didn't do in the past.
After Tuesday night, you just made that point after Tuesday night.
Except apart from
the last home game.
Apart from the last, sorry, that's erased. But the last 3 away games, which we've won at no less than Middlesbrough, Preston, and yesterday at Norwich, we've looked good in the closing stages. And all I've got for them is that Duffy headed over the bar from a corner, and we had a couple of other chances. Doyle fouled Mehmeti, Roberts cross deflected for a corner. But we almost got a third in, didn't we? Right on, in time added on with Mehmeti's shot, took a wicked deflection, but, it would have been good for him. But, 3-0, would that have flattered us if that one had gone in?
No, I don't think it would. I mean, in terms of threat in the final third, when we had our wits about us and went forward, we looked a threat and we looked like scoring every time. I wouldn't say every time we got close to the box, but we had them in more trouble than they had us. Their only other threat, apart from Sainz, was Duffy from a set piece. And we handled him quite well. I mean, basically, he won some headers, but we got in his way so that they had no power in, and Max didn't have anything to handle that he couldn't have thrown his cap on. So I think we did really well there. I mean, in terms of current form, we're the best away team in the division. And if you go over the entire season, hang on, I wrote something down here that's quite interesting. Over the entire season, we're 5th in our form away from home. If we over the entire season, we're joint 3rd placed in terms of points in the championship. We've got 12 points from a possible 24 away from home. Now that was a criticism not so long ago that, we're not doing it away from home. And it's only Sunderland and Sheffield United have got more points than us away from home. Now, in terms of the overall current form table, we're 5th with 11 points from 18. Away from home, we're 1st with 11 points from 18 as well. Now, that would add up to 84 points over a season. So the way we're playing it at the moment is real progress. And it's if you're not happy with that and the way we're playing,
you're never going to be happy. What's that current form you're talking about, Ian? Because you said where that equates to 84.
Current form. I always use current form over 6 games, so it'd be 6 games away. Overall current form is obviously home and away, and what detracts from us at home, because are at home, we're about 19th, 20th. But that's purely because of draws. We keep drawing games.
Yeah.
And at home. So, having said that, if we'd have drawn the other night, we'd have only been a point off the playoffs. So, there's small mercies in everything, mate.
Yeah. Mark, we're a third of the way through the season, as near as makes no difference. I mean, if you look, my favourite word, extrapolation. I mean, we this season so far has been in 3 batches. We had an opening 4 where we were 1-2-1, a middle 5 where it was a 1-3-1, and now a 6 where it's a 3-2-1. You know, that depending on which way you want to cut it, if you take, say, the last 11 games, we are, if we maintain the form of the last 11 games, which is an extension of it, dare I say it, we are getting there, and we could break into the playoffs after the international break when you look at the next 3 games that are coming up. What do you say to that?
I think the problem is, and it's always the cloud that sits over our heads, is fitness. I think we've done very well despite the injuries, because having to keep changing formations and changing personnel makes it very difficult to maintain the consistency. So we're making real progress despite the injuries that are hampering us, but we haven't really got any experience depth. Especially if we lose players, Mike McGain, if we lose any centre backs, if Hayden Roberts or Cam Pring get injured, when we got 3 right-sided players injured at the moment, although Ian said Sykes could come back, Tanner's out, Tanner and McCrory are out as well. So that makes it difficult. If we could play those 11 players every week, we could average around 2 points a game possibly.
I mean, Mark, I think if we play the 11 that started yesterday every week, and Ian said McCrory's coming back after.
But it's impossible, David. It's impossible, isn't it? Because of the intensity of the championship, plus the number of fixtures, especially over Christmas, when you're playing twice a week. And then you've got cup games, which means Lee and Manning will you'll have to change 5, 6, maybe 7 personnel.
When we play Burnley on Saturday lunchtime on the
23rd,
12:30 kickoff, which we'll be doing our match review on that one at 6 o'clock. But when we take the field there, as Ian said, he thinks Twine will be available for selection. McCrory, Sykes, Dickey's back after suspension. Naismith's possibly got over what he's out with at the moment.
Dave, hang on a minute. I said Sykes will be back. McCrory may be.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think you won't see Dickey. You won't see George Tanner or Joe for, I would say, 3 weeks after the international break.
Is that right?
Okay.
Is that fact or your opinion, Ian?
That's my opinion based on previous injuries. So let's see how close I am.
Yeah, remember after the Burnley game, we got a tough game against Watford on the 26th. Then we play Plymouth on Saturday the 30th, which is that's our only 3 p.m. Fixture on a Saturday before the new year, which is crazy, isn't it, with all the scheduling? So it's just fitness. The intensity of the championship and injuries, which we're likely to pick up, it's just inevitable, means it's going to be difficult. But if we can keep players fit, we will keep rising. I've no doubt about that, because now we have found an identity in our play, especially away from home, where we can play the high press. And when we win the ball, we get players forward quickly in numbers. That's the difference. That's why we're creating chances. Teams that do that, if we can take those chances in transition, then we could average 1.5 points upwards a game. Yeah. I think that's the big question mark between now and the end of the season. Can we keep the squad fitter?
Now at the end of the calendar year, as much as anything. Neil, next 3 up after the international break: Burnley at home, Watford away, Plymouth at home. If we got something against Burnley now, we don't need to fear them. They lost to Millwall, I think, the other day. Was it them that lost?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but I think the Burnley game's interesting because they are solid defensively.
Yeah.
You know, they don't concede much.
No.
But then in the same respect, you know, when you look at our home games, we haven't really been massively turned over. The away team, you know, Leeds, perhaps you could argue we sort of rode our luck a little bit at times in relation there, but they're going to have to come at us a little bit. And is that going to play to our strengths a little bit, Burnley? I don't know. I fancy us against Burnley. I fancy us.
Well,
I think, you know, Burnley will look at that and think, yeah, you know, we need to either play out, do a Sheffield United, and that did not play well for Sheffield United, did it? At the end of the day, up until that penalty, you know, they weren't doing anything against us, and that was the sort of the galvanising and last 20 minutes, right? And you know, the decisions we made culminated in us losing the game. But I think going into the Burnley game, I think that's an eminently winnable game. The Watford away game, they're flying at the moment.
Watford are doing well, but that's what I'm saying. Is these fine margins and everybody can beat anybody, because we're being joyous today. You know, we could play at home against Burnley and maybe get a 0-0 draw, and then lose at Vicarage Road on the Tuesday.
The Plymouth game is an interesting one because the Plymouth game, they haven't got an away win all season, and their away form is absolutely dreadful. Yeah. So then what sort of Plymouth? But their home form is very good.
But then after Plymouth, if we look just to gain one game forward there, we've got, on paper, 2 tough games coming up with Burnley and Watford.
Yeah.
And then 2 relatively easy games against Plymouth and Burnley.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
Plymouth and who, David?
Plymouth and I've written Pompey. Plymouth,
Portsmouth.
Plymouth and Portsmouth.
But then we had this same conversation before about Cardiff and what the Sheffield Wednesday did.
Yeah.
But then we looked at
easy games and all.
But then we looked at this 6 games that we've just been through,
yeah.
And I said, and I would have been on target. I have said, if we got 8 points from those 6 games, we ended up getting 11, and it could so easily have been. It could have been 12.
I think if this is quintessential Bristol City, then okay. We look at the games, we look at the opponents, and we say, this is a harder game, this is an easier game, this is where we should be getting points.
Well, that's us. I don't think Liam Manning does it like that, but
but what you need to
supporter base.
What you need to do is look at the next game and win it. Right? Don't look 3 in advance, 4 in advance, because you don't know who's going to be fit. You don't know what form they'll be in. You don't know what form we'll be in. You don't know anything. So look at the next game. Right, Burnley, pick a team to win that, and after we beat Burnley, you can worry about who we got after that. Then, because all you finish doing if you look too far ahead is you spin round in the big circle and you disappear up your own arse.
Yeah,
and that's not a great place to be. Believe you. Believe me.
If you look at last year, you know the fantastic results against Southampton and Leicester at home.
Yeah,
and yet you know you drop the stupid results. And you drop against the teams where you are, in inverted commas, expected to actually do it. And that is why you don't get into the playoffs. And that is why we've had 10 years of not getting into the playoffs, because the consistency hasn't been there. The approach, for whatever reason, hasn't been there. So we haven't put, as Mark said earlier, the back-to-back wins, the consistency in there that we go.
There's also a small matter of ability, talent, and finance, though. When you're up against me, you know, once again this year, 3 teams come down. Now, it's not doing Luton a lot of good, but, you know, as soon as they come down, they're handed 42 million quid. That's before they sell a player, a season ticket or whatever. So we're also up against that in the Championship. And I think...
Ian, I hear what you say there.
It shouldn't be forgotten. And it can be done because Ipswich did it last season. So, you know, I would say... respect everybody, don't fear anyone, but don't look too far ahead, because you don't know what state you're going to be in when you get to that game. I mean, Cardiff, we drew with Cardiff. Everybody said, what a lousy result. And then I think Cardiff won their next three or four games, didn't they?
They did.
So
if you look at the top of the division, and you said Ipswich did it last year, look at Sunderland. You know, they ain't got parachute payments. Now they've got a lot of momentum because they get crowds. I think it was 40,000 the other day, and Coventry came back. And talking about Coventry, I'm just wondering whether the Mark Robbins aura that he had, how influential Adi Vivash was in that managerial duo. Because you look at how well Coventry did up until the end of last season. Vivash left in the summer. I don't know why, But Mark Robbins without Adi Vivash was probably a little bit like what's his name, Steve Coppell without Wally Downs. Because when Steve Coppell had his success at Reading, he had Wally Downs on the training pitch, and then I think it was a guy Hammond or something who did all the player stuff. But that's by the by. All right. Look, let's look at the next 4 games. You know, the two Burnley, Watford, Plymouth, Pompey. I'm looking at 7 points in the next 4. So I'm winning 2 of those, losing 1, and getting a point somewhere. So I don't know what everybody else thinks about that. I'd say I don't want to disappear at my own bottom, but there we go. By the way, we're recording this on Sunday because last night I was out with a gas. He used to be my boss years ago. He's 7 years older than me, so he's in his 70s, Phil. And we went to Zen Thai in Cheddar. And, I'm not giving them a plug because I didn't say I'll give you a plug on the podcast. But if you like a nice Thai meal in the back of Beyond, go to Cheddar, down the gorge. But there we go. The other thing, something else I put on, and Ian, I know you were there that day, I think. Yesterday was an anniversary. 50 years ago, right? It finished at Ashton Gate, Bristol City 1, Manchester United 0, right? And that season, 74-75, was the
John
only
Emmanuel?
John Emmanuel, pissing down with rain.
Didn't they call him Ivor?
Ivor. He was a signing that we got from a Welsh league club called Ferndale. Not Ferndown, that's down in Dorset. Ferndale, I think it was, in Wales. John Emmanuel, fairhead lad. I put a posting on OTIB, the forum, yesterday, and a picture of him scoring the goal with the old hair. But I think what brought most of the comments on that post that I put on OTIB yesterday was...
you mentioned where you put it, Dave, about 5 times.
Yeah, I mentioned where I put it, but a lot of people on there were talking more about what was happening off the pitch, and the carnage, because that was in the days when Ashton Gate Halt Station was opened, where those houses are now, or the bus road, and it was all kicking off in Winterstoke Road. There you go. So you weren't even here in those days. You were a little toddler in another part.
I was a little. No, I was in Frampton Cotterell.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Frampton Cotterell. That's there you go. No, I was a toddler. Yeah,
you were a toddler.
I wasn't kicking.
You weren't at that
it
game.
Was,
Mark,
it was a bit lively, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see. I started watching City in April of that season, and the only interesting thing I'll add to that is that, of course, we were the only team to beat Man United, do the double over them that season, and Donny Gillis got the winner up at Old Trafford, and you can see it. I think it's on the on one of the DVDs.
Is it the Donny Gillis goal at Old Trafford? Because
he scores
Kevin
at Trafford.
I
remember talking to him about it, and he said, of course, they used to surge forward, didn't they, because of terraces? And he said he was shitting himself because they just surged forward towards the goal, and they're right on top of the pitch, because the pitch, the terracing would drop below the pitch, wouldn't it? And the stands slightly below pitch level. Yes. So you've got all these screaming faces at you. It must have been quite intimidating in those days. But we did the double.
I remember seeing a lot of the Manchester United support came in. And there were trains from all over the place. So, and they had a real, I would say, hardcore of hooligan support of about, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000. And a train would rock up, 500 hooligans would get off. Then another train would rock up, 500 would get off. And then another train would rock up, et cetera, et cetera. And they were coming from the Midlands, from Manchester. They were coming up from Cornwall, all over the place. And it was, it was one big punch up all day long, including inside the ground, which you don't get these days, thankfully. No. But
that City team that won that day, I think 8 of them, if not 9, featured against Arsenal in the opening game in what is now the Premier League, August 76. And funny enough, the players that played that day that beat Man United, I think 6 of them, when I checked, featured in our first game back in what is now the Championship. after we'd been relegated. I think I'm right in saying that 3-1 win up at Old Trafford when Kevin Mabbutt scored a hat-trick. That was in
I think
19...
it won it 4-1, Dave.
No, it's 3-1.
3-1.
It was 3-1, was it?
I think that was our only win against Man United in the 8 games we played against them in that 4-game or that 4-season spell at the top. And therefore we had to make another, 1978 through to 2017. So another 39 years until we beat them again, which we're coming up to the 7th anniversary of that. And it's Corey Smith. There we go. We're doing a bit too much reminiscing here. We used to do a lot of that. Not anymore. Final word from each of you. You first, Ian. That won't be a final word, but final. Things are looking up. We felt that after Preston, and we're not back down to earth with Sheffield United, but chance to regroup. Players on the grass. You know, he doesn't really need. He doesn't need Knight there because he's on international duty, because you just wind him up and he'll run round constructively more so of late. But what are your thoughts going into the international break?
My thoughts are, I hope that Jason Knight and Max O'Leary come back unharmed. Probably more chance of that with Max than Knighty, because Knighty tends to play the majority of both games and Max doesn't get a kick normally. I want to get the players back at least so they can go on the bench, and it gives Liam options. Some other players coming back, I think, will have to start their comeback in the under-21s, and I'm talking Ray Nelson, Sam Bell, and Josh Murphy, who only had Adam Murphy, who only had a minor injury, not a very serious one. So I think those 3 will come back in the same way Atco has down the under-21 route. And the problem seems to be, from what Liam Manning said with Rob Atkinson, is he's such a big lump and he's been out for so long that the club are being extremely careful. But he has now played quite a few under-21 games and he's been training for a long time. So I think Rob would be absolutely fine, touching wood once again, if he came in. So I'm excited to have them back. I would say Joe Williams and George, as I said earlier on, 3 weeks after the international break, they should be okay. They don't need operations. Cal Naismith, if it was anybody but Cal, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks. Cal, with his history of problems,
4 to 6 months.
It could be anything, couldn't it? So wish him well, because I thought he had a decent game against Sheffield United, to be fair, although I don't really like him. But I don't like him that much in a 4. But no, I think it'd be. I'm looking forward to staying relatively injury free, playing the next games, taking each game as it comes. Don't go too far ahead of yourself, and maintain what we're doing now. Do all the good things, and try and improve on the things we're not quite as good at. So I'm going into the international break relieved in one way and very happy in another.
Neil, Liam's been on board a year now. I think the recent sequence of games, we can definitely say it's the ghost of Pearson past has gone. How are you feeling at the moment? And it's almost as if the place has been galvanised out of the personal tragedy that befall Liam, hasn't? You know, there's just because the players they seem to be wanting to play for him and the club. You know, there's this a little bit of togetherness that's on the pitch. It's coming through.
Yeah, I mean, perennially we're not great after international breaks.
No,
and arguably it's come at the wrong time again. Setting aside the Sheffield United game from Tuesday, that was the last 10 minutes. The players yesterday, they'll just be great. Everyone's galvanised, positivity. Right, we haven't got a game for 2 weeks. Oh God, right, okay, you know. And then the first game back is home to Burnley, tough game. So I think with it, as to your point about Manning, I don't know. I wouldn't say the jury's still out, but we're on this roller coaster road, aren't we? We're on this streaky sort of thing where we had our longest unbeaten spell for 10 years or something like that the other day, and then we're just And then what are we going to do? We're going to wait until we go 7 games without a win and then go, oh, it's awful again with Pitt. We just need consistency. I mean, if we could get in or around the playoffs this year and then build from there, that's what we need, rather than this wilderness of 13th, 14th, 13th, 14th, 13th, 14th. Because that's when you lose players.
I think if you say that if we get in and build on it, I think it's difficult to, because we've been in this division so long, to build on it. I mean, look at what happened to Coventry. They've gone, I know they got a draw at Sunderland yesterday, but they've gone to rat shit this season, Coventry, after the success. So if we get to 7th, well, if we got to 7th, we miss the playoffs by a point, then next season we say, oh, this is our year. Well, it might not be.
Where we've struggled, I think, is with ambition and with consistency. And where we've lost players previously, when we've been building up and we've had the players to get into the playoffs, we haven't got into the playoffs. We've dropped short. And then those players are left with a year on their contract and thinking, well, I'm not really going to sign a new one because I can't see us in an upward trajectory. And at the moment, are we on an upward trajectory? The jury's still out. We're definitely not on a downward trajectory. But I just think...
But we've got a much stronger squad as well, because with the players coming back,
we've only won five games out of 15 this year. Okay, so let's not get ahead of it. We've drawn too many games. Our home form, as Ian said, isn't great. We've drawn too many games at home. We get that sorted. We build on the away games, and then hopefully we just get a little bit of consistency where we have, like Mark says, back-to-back wins. And let's get it in, because the winning mentality, getting a winning mentality into the side, is the main difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Mark, final word from you?
I'm just really enthusiastic. City have got an identity now, especially now with their away setup as a high pressing team. But what's really struck me this season, it's the work rate from front to back. How hard the players work in the forward positions to win the ball back when we're out of possession. And then they're backed up, double marking on players. But we don't just win the ball; we take it forward. That's progress, and then players follow the man in possession, especially if you're defending your goal. I mean, going back to what Ian said about Liverpool, the slot hadn't changed a lot. He was asked in an interview last night what has he done to teach about to teach the players about counter-attacking corners. He said, well, I just let them do that because they're good enough to do that in their own minds. So that's expression. And expression is, of course, when Max Bird is playing 4 wall passes, ridiculous 1-2s at Preston. But we got players who can do that now, because technically we got very good players. But we got lots of energy. We got players who can think through problems, make good passes, win the ball, take the ball up the other end of the pitch. But it's the work rate out of possession which has really struck me, and that's been the difference, especially in the last few weeks.
Finally say that a couple of things. The stronger squad isn't an accident. Our recruitment's been on point for the last few years, certainly. We've signed some very good players for not a lot of money. And just need to give a shout out to Peter Thompson and the lads who are listening and sending comments in, and they're on their way home from Norwich. So safe journey home, lads.
Yeah, Peter, can I have 3 points on what you're having, please?
And again, no, we are talking about taking one game at a time, and I did 4. But after the Pompey away game, I mean, what a game that's going to be up at the Stadium of Light, because that's a midweek fixture against Sunderland.
Soren Anderson we need, don't we?
We need Soren Anderson, remember?
Yeah, but not in quite in those circumstances.
Followed by a game
for about 98 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, followed by a game against bottom of the table. I think they are QPR. Yeah, or if they're not bottom, relegation. It is a roller coaster, and that's not going to be the music. Life is a roller coaster or anything like that. I'll do the Red Robin at the start, and if you're listening to this on Spotify, you'll know that now. But we always end with the Red Robin. But to everybody who's listened or who's going to listen in the few days ahead, hope you enjoy it. Everybody who's watched us doing this on Sunday breakfast time. Hopefully we've given you something to amuse you or inform you maybe while you've been having your cornflakes. But from all of us, we look forward to seeing you on Saturday, November the 23rd, 6 o'clock. We'll be doing our review of Burnley. In the meantime, have a great